Hey guys, this is Red and Blue, the channel on YouTube for all things PSG in English. Please subscribe. Today, I wanted to do a bit of a mercato update because I think there's quite a few things going on and quite a few players either on their way in, on their way out, things happening, it's heating up. Luis Campos is actually working. So yeah, let's just go through it and I can drop you like all of the latest information and make sure, everyone has a view on what's going on. So I'll pick up from where I left off yesterday. Yesterday was all about the goalkeeper and apparently Donnarumma on his way out, Chevalier from Lille on his way in. What we're hearing today is that indeed PSG actually even made an offer to Lille already for their goalkeeper, an offer that we're expecting to be rejected because it's below Lille's asking price of 40 million euro, and also because Lille has signaled that they want to find a replacement for Chevalier before letting him leave. So they're working on that on the Lille side. So it's really like, a first offer just to get conversation started, get the ball rolling on negotiations. And yeah, it still, leaves the door open for Donnarumma, who's supposed to meet with the club later this week to decide whether he's going to accept or not the contract and the conditions that PSG offered. So, we'll see what goes on. Hopefully we get to resolution on that. And yeah, I think personally, hopefully Donnarumma accepts what PSG is offering, even if it's not quite as good as what we had. Because Donnarumma being Donnarumma and having had the last 6 months that he's had, it'd be a bit sad to see him go. So that's one. In defense, long-term PSG target, Illia Zabarnyi from Bournemouth, the central defender that we want absolutely to bring in to play in central defense in the Marquinhos position, so on the right of central defense. We heard towards the end of last week that Nasser was getting personally involved in the negotiation and that he picked up the phone and is talking with the Bournemouth presidents and the top bosses in Bournemouth side. It does seem to have unlocked negotiations. And what we were hearing at the end of last week towards over the weekend as well is that essentially both clubs are looking at an agreement somewhere around 52 million pounds, I think is the numbers that came out, which is, a little bit over 60 million euros for a flat fee, and then talking about what bonuses and what other things might come on top. Most recently, I've seen the number of 65 million euros. It is getting said that Bournemouth is still hoping to get 70 million overall, but I think the conversation seems to be moving, and there was a lot of chatter around about the deal getting finalized in the next couple of days, and so we might finally be getting to resolution at some point this week, which would be great. And it looks like it's the resolutions that PSG has been hoping for, which is even better. So yeah, that too seems to be going well. Next one, for my friend Ento in Juve, let's talk about Colomwani for a second. So that too, I've done a long form video a couple of days ago about what the hell is going on with Juventus. The latest news there is that indeed it does seem like there is some legitimate interest from English team, and in particular it looks like Man United has put Colomwani in their short list of players and strikers that they're looking at. They haven't made any offer yet, but they are quietly talking behind the scenes and getting a sense of whether the player would be interested and whether the club might be ready to deal. And so that's put some pressure on Juventus, which is fantastic because they were, dragging their feet and pretending like they don't have any money, but at the same time spending in other places. So now, the latest is that Juventus might come back to us with an updated offer, which would be a loan with a 10 million euro fee for the loan for the year to come, and an almost automatic buying clause that would be triggered depending on whether or not Juve qualifies for the Champions League, and that's where we're not entirely clear, on the number of games and performances of Colomwani. Personally, my sense is that I'd rather we just sell him out to an English team and just get it over with. I think the English league as well would probably suit his game even better than the Italian one, even if he did enjoy another great time the last 6 months in Juventus. And at some point, like, just screw it. Like, Juventus had the player almost for free for 6 months. It seems to be going well for them. There's no reason to keep giving them passes and discount and so on just because they've tried the players. They've seen him for 6 months. He's played in their team. He adapted. He showed what he can do. No, at some point, if you want it, you've got to show the money. And if you don't have the money, well, I'm sorry, but it's a tough word. And if there's other teams interested, well, there's other teams interested. So going back to what I said to Ento, where is the money? Just give us the money. More than happy to make a deal, but let's not pretend like this isn't a business. So we'll see how this gets resolved. Hopefully, someone comes in, puts some money on the table, and the deal gets made. The player has started training and doing his preseason in Paris. He's waiting for a deal. I think Juventus are going on a summer tour at the end of the week as well. So typically, that's also a moment where teams want to finalize deals before going on tour, so they can bring the new players with them and make sure they're part of the friendly games and the trainings and so on. So yeah, we'll see if things get unlocked in the coming days, and if indeed Man United decides to also make an offer for him, which is possible and honestly would make a lot of sense as far as I'm concerned. So yeah. And then next one I wanted to talk about, our friends in Fenerbahce have essentially finalized the deal with Skriniar. So Skriniar will be going to Fenerbahce. I think we're talking about a 10 to 15 million euro going to PSG, and a player who's going to get a salary around, I think, 8 or 9 million euro for the year. So pretty good for him as well. That will get announced supposedly later on this week. And at the same time, Fenerbahce is working on finalizing Marco Asensio. There's a lot of back and forth and contradicting information on this one, so I want to be a bit cautious, because earlier it was said that a deal was found, it was a done deal. Then it went back a little bit, saying, actually, the negotiations between the two clubs are a bit difficult and so on. It does feel like if it's not done, it's really very, very close to it. We're also, for Asensio, looking at a deal between 10 and 15 million euros, and maybe similar, if slightly higher salary for the player in Turkey. I think the short of it is that for us, it gets two players that we got on free transfer who have big wages out of our wage bill. We get a little bit of money in the kitty, which is always positive. But obviously, in this case, if we get somewhere 20, 25 million euro, I mean, it's nice, and not speeding on that by any means, but it's not, life-changing for PSG. So yeah, the latest that I've heard is that Fenerbahce wanted to announce also middle of this week. And wanted to announce both players together. There's a little bit of clash of titans going on in Turkey at the moment, with Galatasaray and Fenerbahce both spending a lot of money on the mercato and trying to show their muscles and flex their financial muscles to each other. So that's kind of funny. Actually, I didn't mention that, but Galatasaray looks like they actually made an offer for Donnarumma. So if Donnarumma is on the way out, that could be a destination for him. Apparently, Galatasaray, as was reading, they sold their training ground, which is a big piece of real estate, and apparently in a pretty good location. So they made, I think, don't quote me on this, but if I remember correctly, the number that I saw was 300 million euro off of that sale. And so all of a sudden, they're flush with cash. And so they made a very interesting contract offer to Donnarumma. But at the same time, the offer that they want to make to PSG would be 15 million euro. Which I think, even if Donnarumma only has 1 year of contract left, 15 million euro feels like we might be able to find someone else who would be willing to put more on the table for him. Plus, obviously, there is still the question mark of whether Donnarumma would be interested in going to Turkey at all. So we'll have to see on this, but just to show the level of activity and financial power of the Turkish club this mercato, which is quite funny. So yeah. And then also picking up on a video that I did recently on Alexander Isak. Wanted to mention that. I got tons of comments from Liverpool fans telling us to keep our hands off. Liverpool is very, very keen on the player. And indeed, like I had said in my video, the player also said that he wants Liverpool. PSG, I think what we're not hearing much, but the fact that we're not hearing much makes me personally tend to believe that we're looking at it and thinking about it. Nothing official about it, but the whispers that we get from PSG insiders and tweetos and so on and so forth, tend to make me believe that. So we'll see. The mercato is long. There's no deal found with anyone, despite what people might believe. So we'll see where that goes. And in the meantime, Liverpool is also looking at selling Luis Diaz to Bayern. So they've got a lot of things going on their side. They had a pretty horrible friendly game against AC Milan in Asia. So they should really think about who and what they need to bring for their team. Personally, I remain convinced that for them a number 9 shouldn't be the priority of priorities after bringing Ekotike. But whatever floats their boat. And lastly, speaking of PSG oldies, not so old, but former players, Xavi Simons apparently is a big target for Chelsea right now. Chelsea would be keen on bringing him on board, which is interesting because we sold the player to Leipzig over the Christmas transfer window last 6 months ago. And we sold him to them for 50 million euro flat fee, but with also a pretty sizable percentage in case they sell him on again and make a profit on him. The player has kind of lost a fair chunk of appeal and a fair chunk of value in those last 6 months because his performance and indeed even his attitude hasn't put him in the best possible light. But if Chelsea is interested, obviously we know Chelsea, they've got deep pockets. They're not afraid of throwing cash around. And they're not afraid of just overpaying for player if they want someone. So hopefully that might be a way for us to get a few more millions in our bank account somehow off of a Chelsea buy. So always nice. So yeah, that was I think from my side. I'm thinking if I missed anything. I do think those are the big mercato conversations going on at the moment. We still have a few players as well who are supposedly to be on their way out. Renato Sanchez was supposed to go back on loan to Benfica. I don't think that's been finalized just yet. Mukiele is back in Paris after his loan in Bayer Leverkusen. We haven't really heard much going on for that player. Soler, I think there was still interest in Spain, but didn't get finalized. So we do have still a few players that we should be trying to push out as well. And then in terms of players coming on their way in, if we land the central defender and if we get a resolution one way or the other on the goalkeeper, it feels like those are the two main must-have pieces of business that we set out to achieve at the beginning of the window that would be done. And so from there on, we can get on with strengthening our line of attack if necessary, maybe finding another attacker, maybe adding a little bit of depth in midfield, adding a little bit of depth on the fullbacks. There's quite a few places where a lot of people had talked about improving the depth of the squad. We'll see what kind of business Luis Campos gets into. But yeah, remember we do have a very, very good and young team already, who's perfectly capable and has proven that they're capable of dominating pretty much anyone. So yeah, little touches here and there. We'll see what opportunities exist on the market. We'll see which players really do want to be part of this team, because especially if we're looking for squad depth and substitute, it's not so easy for players to accept this kind of role within a big team. It takes a special kind of player in terms of level, in terms of skills, but also in terms of attitude. And we've been very, very mindful, I think, the past few years in bringing the right people in the right places at the right time, and not, spraying and praying and bringing in many people and hoping one of them sticks. Which, if you ask me, is a better way of approaching mercato. So I'm not going to turn around and complain about it here. I do hope there'll be more movement in the next few weeks between now and the end of August. But I'm also not going to freak out, and I'm going to keep trusting the people who are in charge to make it happen. So yeah, anyway, for now, those were like the top information going on. Let me know what you think about all of this. Is there are you happy to see the Zabarnyi deal get to a close? What do you think about Turkey buying our players? Who else do you think we should be looking at and talking to? And yeah, in the meantime, please like this video, please subscribe to the channel, please hit the bell to get notified, and don't forget, in Mercato time, ici c'est Paris!